Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Good evening and welcome to Carnegie Town Hall. I call this meeting of the Sioux Falls Planning Commission to order. I'd like to emphasize a couple of items out of courtesies for everyone. Please silence all electronic devices. We look forward to hearing your testimony tonight and appreciate you joining us. In an effort to have sufficient time to hear from everyone, we'd like to ask that you come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. And please limit your comments to 5 minutes and focus on new testimony wherever possible. We do want to hear everyone who would like to speak. At this time, we will consider the consent agenda. Denise, could you please read?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item 1 is approval of minutes. 1A is Planning Commission briefing of Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. Item 1B is Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. Item 2A, petition rezone 011639-2020, rezoning from the O Office District to the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District located at 700 South Sneeve Avenue. Item 2B, petition rezone 011681-2020, rezoning from the LW Live Work District to the C2 Neighborhood Commercial, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, and RS Single Family Residential Suburban Districts located at southeast corner of West 22nd Street and South Ellis Road. Item 2C, petition rezone 011682-2020, rezoning from the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District to the O Office District located at northwest corner of East 61st Street and South Sycamore Avenue. Item 2D, petition rezone 011683-2020, rezoning from the C2 Neighborhood Commercial RD1 Residential Single and Twin, RD2 Residential Suburban Townhome Districts to the O Office District located at southwest corner East 26th Street and South Cleveland Avenue. Item 2E, petition rezone 011697-2020, rezoning from the RD1 Residential Single and Twin District to the RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban District located at 2601 South Norton Avenue. Item 2F, petition rezone 011699-2020, rezoning from the AG Agriculture and RD2 Residential Suburban Townhome Districts to the LW Live Work District located at southwest corner of East 57th Street and Highway 11. Item 2G, petition rezone 011700-2020, rezoning from the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District to the RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density District located at southwest corner of East 69th Street and Southeastern Avenue. Item 2H, petition subdivision plan 0117272020, preliminary subdivision plan for Grandview Park Addition, new residential subdivision located at 700 South Sneeve Avenue. Item 3, consent agenda approval.
Thank you, Denise. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to have further discussion on any of the items just read? If so, we will move those to the regular agenda.
We did talk to a couple of neighbors out in the hallway that would like item 1E to be put on the regular agenda for discussion.
Item 1E,
I'm sorry,
or 2E?
2E.
Okay, very good.
2E.
So that'd be unusual. Okay. Thank you. Any other objections from the audience other than 2E?
Mr. Chair, I have a conflict with one of the items on the consent agenda, so I'll be recusing myself from voting on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no other objections from the audience? Any objections from commission? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, and I believe we need an amendment for moving item 2E to the regular agenda. I'd entertain an amendment to do that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move item 2E to the regular agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Now we're back to the primary motion, moving 2E and approving the rest of the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular agenda.
Second.
Say it's been moved and seconded to approve the regular agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I'd like to make a motion to amend the order of the regular agenda to move item 5E right after item 5A, in addition to the new item from the consent agenda coming over.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
And there is a second. Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment to move item 5E to right behind 5A, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
We need to approve as amended.
Oh, true. I'd entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda as amended.
Motion's on the floor,
Okay.
right?
Then we'll vote. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 2E, petition rezone 011697 2020, rezoning from the RD1 residential single and twin district to the RD2 townhome residential suburban district located at 2601 South Norton Avenue.
Good evening. Adam Roach, Planning and Development Services. The project is the Norton Triplex. The applicant is Keith Kocher with Kocher Construction, and he's proposing to construct a triplex on an undeveloped site. There was a home fire here and the house was torn down. The specific location is 2601 South Norton. Public agency comments. Agencies provided a review of all available information and did not have any concerns or comments at this time. With the concept plan, it meets the setbacks, the parking, and the landscaping. And the proposed zoning to accommodate a triplex meets the Sioux Falls Shape Comprehensive Plan. And there are minimal conflicts with surrounding land uses that can be addressed with buffer yards. The staff recommendation, because the subject application is consistent with the Shape Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan, staff recommend approval of this rezone. The reason this was pulled is we do have a couple individuals in the audience who have some concerns with the on-street parking and the on-site parking as well. And we do have the applicant here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for city? Hearing none, is the applicant here this evening? Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Keith Kocher, Kocher Construction.
Anything you'd like to add to the city's comments?
No, I feel like I've met all the requirements.
Okay, any questions from the commission? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item? Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Neil Peterson. I live at 2505 South Norton Avenue. My main concern with this is on-street parking. There's so many vehicles down there right now. That street is a one-lane street. In the wintertime, it's very hazardous. There's been multiple accidents in the last 2 years that I've lived there. There's been a rollover and everything else. So On-street parking is my main concern, but, and I don't see how you can have a triplex and not have people parking on the street. Everybody owns 2 cars, or 3. So, the parking is my main concern. And, now, is it going to be low rent housing or is it just going to be normal housing? That was the other question I had. That'll do for me.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kathy Barnett. I live at 2616 South Summit Avenue. And I have a few concerns. We would like to know also what type of housing this will be, if it will be low income, subsidized housing. You know, we kind of want to know what kind of folks are moving into our neighborhood. We've got a real nice residential neighborhood. We've got young couples and young kids moving in, and we'd like to keep it that way. I really don't want to look out my backyard and look at a 3-plex. I'd rather look at a backyard of a house. So those are just my concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this one?
My name's Marty Franken. I'm at 2514 and 2516 South Norton. Same sentiment Neil had, is just the parking over there is tough the way it is right now. There's a lot of duplexes on the street already. So parking is just at a minimum already. A 3-plex is, and they're all 3-bed, 2-bath, I believe, with just 1 stall garages. It's a lot of new families to move into a neighborhood like that. And like the gal mentioned there, looking at a 3-plex when there's already a lot of duplexes there, it's a lot. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Okay, hearing none. I think it's probably appropriate to have the city come up and comment about what is able to be done on this and the parking requirements and how those have or have not been met by the applicant.
Sure. Based on the application or the concept plan, it indicates 6 parking spots, 2 per each residence. We don't regulate on-street parking, so we look at that. We know it's near a college campus. A lot of people walk, people have friends over, people park on the streets, things of that nature, as it happens everywhere at different universities around the nation. As far as the, whether it's market rate or low income, it is market rate housing. And any other specifics of the plan, I'd ask the applicant to come up and address.
Okay, thank you. And is a triplex allowed in this zoning? I think
correct, a triplex is allowed in this zoning.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to come up and readdress any of the questions?
I can just speak on the rentals. I think we're just going to target the higher, maybe, like you said, current rents. So 1,500 would be the lowest end. We aren't targeting any student housing on this project. So just young families, and we know we have a housing crisis in Sioux Falls, so we're just trying to add to that. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody new who would like to address this from the audience? Otherwise, we'll move to commission discussion.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant, if I could, at this time.
Looks like we have one more audience member who wants to address.
Todd DeZodele. Live at 2510 and 2508 South Norton. I was just wondering, at $1,500, how many square foot are these houses on the inside?
Well, those are probably a little bit more detailed, question than we're really considering here, I think, but a valid question to discuss with the applicant maybe after the meeting.
Okay.
Is there any other kind of general questions?
View of the mountains, should it? It's a joke.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other members of the audience would like to address this? Seeing none, I'll close testimony, and what was your request? Eric?
Yeah, I have a question for the applicant. There's clearly a few neighbors with some concerns, and I know things change on a tenant-by-tenant basis, but could you talk to us about your willingness to work with the neighbors in the future to alleviate some concerns that might arise?
As far as parking or?
Yeah, whether it's parking or noise, you know, with having a triplex on the property, you know, it's an increase as far as the density goes, and if there are any concerns or anything in the future from the neighbors, or how willing are you to address those with them?
I'm totally open for any ideas. Just, yeah, willing to work with them.
Okay, thank you. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. I'd entertain commission action.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval. Any discussion?
I think this actually, fits perfect to the area. Nationwide right now, this is a big issue that's coming up everywhere because we are looking to make more affordable units for people to live in. And this is going to be something that we're going to deal with here for the next 10 years. This area does make sense. When it comes to tenants, I mean, you have to allow any tenant that comes there. It's a HUD issue if you don't. So that is one thing that you can't select just based on people. So this does fit the zoning, and I will vote for it.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say that I think this project also does fit the zoning in the area. I do have some concerns about that stretch of Norton Avenue. I was on that the other day, and when you've got parking on both sides of the street, it does get a little chaotic, but in the long term, I just don't necessarily think that this particular project's going to cause an exponential effect on that, but something that maybe needs to be looked into in the future.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 5A, petition rezone 011688-2020, rezoning from the C4 Commercial Regional RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban and O Office Districts to the RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban, O Office CN Conservation Districts located at northwest corner of East Arrowhead Parkway and South 6 Mile Road.
The applicant here is Clint Ackerman with Willows Edge Estates LLC. As Denise had said, it's located at the northwest corner of East Arrowhead Parkway and South 6 Mile Road. The applicant is looking at to rezone approximately 140 acres from various zoning districts down to more of a residential subdivision. The proposed, and then the applicant, we did have a concern from the neighbor to the west about a strip of property adjacent with the down zone, adjacent to his existing C4 commercial property. As you can see, he's down zoning to the RD2. The concern came about of, then do I have to buffer to this down zone? If he constructs townhomes here and I construct, say, a Walmart here, do I have to buffer because he's down zoning? The applicant has worked with the neighbor and has provided about a 10-foot strip of conservation along that west side of the RD2, which then should prevent or should not require the buffering if that parcel, the C4 parcel, would develop as a large box retail or a large commercial development. So kind of protects the neighbor to the west and also gets a little bit of a buffer for the proposed townhomes. The proposed zoning does meet the spirit and intent of the city's comprehensive plan. The concept, which includes the construction of an office, is a good fit with the arterial streets and a nice transition to the buffering as you start going to the north and west with apartments and also townhomes and single family. As you had seen in your packets and online probably, we did have a recommendation on deferral on this, and that was really due to the preliminary subdivision plan that was moved as the next item on this. The applicant did submit updated preliminary subdivision plans on Thursday right at about the time we're creating these packets, we need to get them out. So we recommended deferral with the notion that if he can address the rest of the concerns from city engineering staff, then at the time of the meeting, we can move ahead and recommend approval of it. He has completed those tasks to satisfaction of the engineering for the preliminary subdivision plan. So staff does feel comfortable recommending approval now on the rezoning of this. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, thank you. Is the applicant here this evening?
Clint Ackerman, Signature Companies. And I'd just like to say that, you know, it's a great honor to be given the chance to develop this property. It's one of the East Side premier properties that have been sitting there for quite some time. So when we were given the opportunity, you can see that it didn't take us long to jump on it. We are excited to get started on the development right away this summer. We're hoping to kick off with a 400-unit apartment complex and townhouse complex with 50 to 100 single-family units yet this year. So we got big plans for the development, and we think it'll go pretty quickly. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
I want to make one more note. I think the updated preliminary plans, the zoning too is updated? Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, close testimony from audience and entertain commission action.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval of this item 5A. Any discussion?
I'm just happy that someone's actually going to start working on this now. It's changed hands a couple times, and it's good to see something going.
I would just compliment the applicant for putting the conservation buffer around essentially the project. I think that's an initial concern that I had with the C4 off to the west there, and I think you've certainly alleviated that concern, so thank you for doing that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item 5E, petition subdivision plan 011633-2020 preliminary subdivision plan for Willows Edge Edition, new residential and commercial subdivision located at northwest corner of East Arrowhead Parkway and South 6 Mile Road.
This is also an application by Clint Ackerman. Obviously, the preliminary subdivision plan that goes along with the rezoning that we just talked about. As also with the rezoning, we were recommending deferral of this. And as I indicated before, the applicant did submit updated plans that satisfied all of engineering's concerns. So therefore, we can move forward. The applicant of this property and also the same owner of the property to the west have continued to kind of work together. This is the plan that was submitted, and the city engineering staff and city planning staff could support. As you can see, the access road on the left side kind of does a couple of curves. Since the time of the submittal, the developer as well as the property owner of the west have continued to work together on trying to come up with an agreement to switch that road design. And that would be, as we show here, is option number 2. City staff isn't requiring it to look like this, but we're supportive of them continuing to work together to kind of put that collector street on the quarter mile. And as part of that, they're continuing those discussions, and hopefully they can come to a resolution in the next month or so. However, we are supportive of moving forward with the preliminary plan with this road alignment or the one that has been before you that you've seen in the packet that we've approved previously. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the commission? Okay, thank you. The applicant, would you like to speak again?
Clint Ackerman, Signature Companies. As Jason alluded to, the owner to the west and I are still working on the alignment of the street and access on the west property line. As you know, two different parties coming together to create an agreement can be tough sometimes. The neighbor and I are working well now together, and I think at the end of the next 30 days, we'll come to an agreement. But I, as a developer, have to have the ability to start my project, and that access is pretty important to me. So either one, whether it's the option proposed originally or the second option here, both parties are getting all access points. But I met with the owner to the west and agreed to do a quarter-mile access street together, proposed a 50-50 split. Now it really just comes down to how are the costs paid for, what is the timing of that and all that. So if we can work out all those details, I think we'll be moving forward with an agreement, and we'll have that resolved by the council meeting. Any questions?
Any questions from the commission?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item?
Thank you. My name is Thomas Hine. I appreciate your time this evening. I first of all want to thank Clint and welcome him as our new neighbor. We're certainly excited, as someone mentioned here, about getting this property on the schedule here. So anyhow, Clint and I have verbally discussed, the property, and it appears to be agreeing on most of what we're talking about. While we think we have a tentative agreement for one access, this does not give up any of my additional property access rights. And that being said, I think we will have an agreement, as Clint mentioned, in principle. My attorney is revising the initial draft that we just received this morning from Clint, and we'll follow up with Clint shortly. As long as Clint and I get a signed agreement to an agreeable access, I will be in full support, not only now, but at the city council level. Thank you all for your time.
Any questions from the commission? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address this item? Seeing none, I would close public comment and move to commission action.
Motion for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just like to say, it looks like there's still some fine print to work out between the owners of the commercial sections of the property. But as it's moving into the new zoning, the plan makes sense with residential and other uses complementing what had been a largely potential commercial and office use, moving more towards more residential with conservation buffers that I'm sure make sense because of the topography of the area. It's just great to see this kind of change occurring that makes sense, and the owners, the neighbors, if you will, of this property working together to make it work. I'll be in favor and in support of this one.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item 5B, petition conditional use permit 011665-2020, conditional use permit for an on-sale alcohol beverage establishment within 500 feet of sensitive uses located at 5113 West 41st Street.
The applicant here is Brian Soberg of Crystal Investments Incorporated. The applicant would like to open a third casino in the existing strip center. This is within 500 feet of a sensitive land use. As see on the map, there is a single-family home to the south and a couple to the north. The applicant meets all of our needs for the conditional use permit standards. As I indicated, there are single-family houses adjacent to it, which triggers a conditional use permit. Public agencies provided a review of all available information and did not have any concerns or comments to add. There is two existing casinos here, so it does have the adequate buffer to the southern property. It's an existing arterial corridor with commercial uses. The existing multi-tenant building already has existing casinos, as I mentioned. There's a screen fence and landscaping that separate the two. An approved security management plan is required and has been submitted to the city. And because the applicant has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommend approval. And the applicant is here if you would like to address any questions with him.
Any questions for the city?
I've got some questions for you, Adam. Have you heard anything from the neighbors to the north at all? Any concerns from any of the neighbors at all?
We have not received any calls on this project.
Perfect. That's all I've got.
Okay. Is the applicant here this evening? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Jim Schneider, Sioux Falls. I am an employee of the applicant. He got called out of town this evening, so I can answer any questions you have.
Mr. Chair, this casino going into this location, is it all the same ownership?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and speak to this item? Seeing none?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval of item 5B. Any discussion?
Seems to be a common thing coming up where they're doubling up on current casinos that they have, so I haven't really heard any issues, so I think it works fine.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item 5C, petition, conditional use permit 011705-2020, conditional use permit to allow on-sale alcohol located at future Bench Hall at southeast corner of East Arrowhead Parkway and South Riverview Avenue.
This project was before you a couple months back. This is the Arrowhead Event Barn. And the applicants are constructing an event barn and would like to serve beer and wine. It's on the southeast corner of Highway 42 and South Riverview Avenue on approximately 6 acres. The applicant meets all of our conditional use permit standards, besides the security management plan, which they were made aware of, and we'll be submitting that along with their alcohol license. There is a future city park adjacent to the site that includes the Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum and Arrowhead Park that are within 500 feet, which makes it the sensitive land use. Public agencies had an opportunity to review, and thanks, Jason. And all available information did not have any concerns or comments to add at the time. And the proposed on-sale alcohol meets the criteria of the comprehensive plan. The sensitive land use is a future park across the street to the west, and the parking is on site. And because the applicant has provided clarity on the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommend approval of this conditional use permit. And the applicant is here to address any questions, as am I.
Okay. Any questions?
Chair, I have a
of the
question of Adam. I'd like to hear more detail about how the conditional use permit standards have been met.
Sure. So for the standards of 160.616, the establishment must have all parking spaces within the on-site parking lot in close proximity facing the entrance. Lighting may be considered to provide illumination for security and safety of parking access areas, and we do have a city standard for that. On-site lighting plans shall be submitted for review and approval, which our zoning department reviews to make sure that everything is adequate and lit up appropriately without too much light pollution. And soundproofing may be considered to prevent outdoor noise and vibrations from penetrating into surrounding properties or lease space. We haven't had any concerns about that at this time. And again, that security management plan that should be provided to our police department for a review. And that's on the appropriate age of drinking, checking IDs, over-serving, things of that nature.
Has the applicant interacted with the Parks Department or anyone that would be affected, involved in that?
So all of our planning commission applications do go to the Parks Department for their review, and they did not have any concerns on this one.
Okay, any other questions for the city? Thank you. Is the applicant here this evening?
Brian Brian Hedman, 26568 484th Avenue, Brandon. We've been before the City Council and the Planning Commission before concerning this property to get the property annexed and also to get the zoning changed. So the city is well aware of what we're doing. And for that reason, we would ask that you issue the conditional use permit. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Could you talk about your plans a little more in terms of hours, your operating hours, what you're envisioning?
The operating hours probably would be, mostly Fridays and Saturdays. Most of the time would be somewhat all day. We're planning to have weddings, and they can run from anywhere from, early afternoon to evening. We would probably have a closing time at 11. And we're aware that after 10, there's, noise ordinances. Also, my wife and I are starting this business. We have 2 children that have either got married or are going to get married in the last year. And we found that there's a huge demand in this area for this type of facility. And that's one of the reasons why we would like to do it.
You mentioned sound. Could you talk about what you've considered in your building in regards to that?
The building has what is a 7 inches, I think, of styrofoam on the roof, and all the outside walls are well insulated, so the sound should stay within the building. Most of the late night, or probably all the late night items will be inside the building. The nearest residence to this building is more than 1,800 feet away, so it's more than a third of a mile. We looked around for places to put this type of facility, and we found this land, and we thought it'd be ideal because it just really doesn't bother anybody.
Thank you.
Say, Brian, at the last meeting, I know there were a few neighborhood concerns, and I think I remember seeing you afterwards talking with those neighbors, and I think you've worked really quite well with them and really alleviated a lot of their concerns. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit and talk about how you've been open to working with the neighbors?
We did have a neighborhood meeting, I think it was on September 30th last fall, and at first there was a lot of concerns. There was some traffic concerns of people going south on Riverview Avenue, and we're going to try to, direct people to go north and exit on Highway 42. There was a little bit of noise concerns, but all the residents were really so far away that it shouldn't be an issue. And then lighting, of course, the city requires certain lighting for the parking lot, and so that really shouldn't be a concern either.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item? Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm David Zalkaitis. I live at 2215 East Marbury Street. I don't live anywhere near this development, but I'm curious as to what the surrounding area is zoned. Because, the neighbors are now a third of a mile away, but if it's zoned residential, hey, look, ag, that should be safe. But if it's zoned residential and somebody moves in next door, then the sound might be a problem. Looks like it's zoned ag. Be okay for now.
Okay, thank you. Any other audience comments? Seeing none, we'll close public testimony and entertain commission action.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. Are there any discussion?
I think this is a great spot for this zoning, and it's actually, this type of service is well needed, so.
Yeah, I will be supporting this application, and I thank the applicant for working with the neighbors so well, and I don't have any concerns about the immediate surrounding uses.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5D, I have to recuse myself, so I'll be handing over the gavel to Commissioner Nyberg.
Denise, please read the item. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair. Item 5D is petition for planned unit development 011527 2019 planned unit development initial development plan amendment for updating PUD plan to reflect latest concepts located at North Career Avenue and West 60th Street North, USD Discovery District.
I'm representing Albert tonight. He's a little bit under the weather, and as you can see, I'm going to try and skim over his very detailed report that he's provided to you. He's done a good job of kind of getting the existing conditions out there and what the future plans are. This is for the USD Discovery District Initial Development Plan Amendment. The owners are the South Dakota Board of Regents. This amendment to the plan is really to update uses and designs out there and create that master parking plan as the next phase in their development. It's about 300 acres. Really, the USD Discovery District was approved by the Planning Commission on October 7th of 2015. So it's been about, 4.5 years since we've seen it. So it's about time to kind of do the next phase on that. The proposed amendment will allow the applicant to move forward with the next phase of the district and construct another building out there. The overall site plan aims to create a midtown feel and encourage parking in one place and walking or using other modes of transportation within the district. The campus plan shows two specific areas for the campus-wide plan for setbacks, West Noble Street and North Francis Avenue. They're looking to kind of create more of that downtown feel, so their proposed setbacks are going from the 20 feet that would normally be required within this form to actually down to a 0-foot setback. And that will really put those buildings right up against the sidewalk and kind of give that commercial level or office level right on the street level, and then have some apartments and things above it. Other considerations within this, parking balance, they are showing about 344 parking spaces available with this entire district. And, they're showing 555 current parking spaces and only 211 are required. So they are gonna provide additional parking spaces than what's required as we continue to build out this entire development. This amendment does not include, they did have some approved signage plans in 2015. They're not updating those at this time. So we will be continuing to utilize that 2015 signage master plan, as you can see on this specific area. Because that subject application is consistent with the Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan, and it provides a layout of existing and proposed facility and does provide for shared parking, an adequate number of shared parking spaces. Staff does recommend approval of this initial development plan amendment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hearing no questions, is the applicant here? Please come up and state your name and tell us a little bit about the amendment.
I'm Jason Crane. I'm representing SAB Biotherapeutics. Just to be clear, I'm not representing the Discovery District. So I'm representing the client or the party that will be constructing the new facility within the Discovery District. So if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to the public input portion. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to address this item? Seeing nobody, we will close the public input portion, and I will look for commissioner action.
Motion for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
I can't believe it's been 2015 since we saw the first round of this. I look forward to the continued evolution of the area.
There's no further discussion. We will take a vote on this item. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 6 is public input on non-agenda items.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission on any non-agenda items this evening? Seeing none, I'd entertain action from the commission to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls.